Welcome to the Midwest Marvel Podcast, a podcast for people passionate about pop culture and especially nerd culture. I'm your host, Nick Adams, aka Midwest Marvel Guy, and I am here today with my co-host, a man who is a former member of the Tadpoles, Zeke Farnsworth.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. Is it true that Leapfrog was a terrible employer to work for?
Yeah, he didn't pay, he paid us with Jimmy John's and he paid us with that shawarma place that Iron Man
Okay.
dubbed up. And the shawarma was all right, but Jimmy John's gets old after a
It
while. I'm
does.
definitely a Jersey Mike's guy anyway.
I'm much
So
more of a hot sub fan than a cold
yeah,
sub guy.
me too. Unless it's an Italian sub, then it's all right. But he
So
didn't
you would
pay
have
us.
So you would have classified as a goon then and not a henchman. You were there for the payment and not for the cause.
No, I was there because he had some blackmail on me. I owed him a debt.
Oh
So
man. We'll have to get into that later.
I was trying to get those rocket
gonna get
boots from
juicy.
him and lost the
Yeah.
bet.
At least you didn't use jet fuel.
Exactly. I was the one who recommended it to him.
Oh, so you got out of there. That's why you're a former member. You're like, I'm done.
Yep.
All right.
I'm
Set
out
him
of
up
here.
for failure and I'm leaving. That's what you get for paying me and Jimmy John's. Just kidding.
Exactly.
Jimmy John's, if you're somehow listening, we love you. Your subs just aren't as good as like Penn Station Firehouse or Jersey Mike's. It is what it is.
I mean, I'd even go as far to say as public subs are better, but
Yeah.
that's no hate on Jimmy John's.
We don't have a
freaky fast
Publix up
delivery.
here. We don't have a
That's
Publix
right.
up here, so I can't compare, but I'll take your word for it.
Former Midwest guy.
Yeah. Well, hey, on today's episode, we got a lot to talk about, man, because She-Hulk episode 8 came out. Best episode of the whole series, in my opinion, by far. And
for
I
sure.
think most people agree. And then on top of that, we had Daredevil in the episode, which that's going to be like our entire episode here. And then finally, man, it was well worth the wait, though. I'll tell you what, it was definitely worth it. We got She-Hulk episode 8, and we also got Werewolf by Night. I pronounced that right this time. My wife makes fun of me all the time. I say Werewolf, and she calls me out on it every single time I say it. So it'll be a grind for me to pronounce it correctly today. But Werewolf by Night came out. We're going to talk about that because, man, like that was groundbreaking for the MCU.
Yes, big stuff, monsters, and
we've seen nothing like it.
And yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then on top of that, we got some big news today regarding Moon Knight, and I'm not going to go into what that is, but we're going to touch on that and then maybe talk about, we got a Mario trailer this week, and that, yeah, we'll talk about how that looks just briefly. So a lot of stuff on the schedule today. Make sure, first of all, thank you guys so much for listening. Appreciate your support. We love you guys as fans. And so continue to listen, continue to subscribe. If this is your first time and you have not subscribed or downloaded the podcast, please do so. It means so much. Leave a 5-star review. That helps push the podcast out into the world. And send us an email if you have any questions or comments. No one took us up on the challenge last time. So if you have any questions or comments, send an email to midwestmarvelguy@gmail.com with any questions, comments that you have about the show, and we will address them here on the show. And so you can be the lucky first guinea pig to send in a question or a comment. But let's get into episode 8 of She-Hulk. This was a doozy. We do a synopsis at the beginning of every episode, and that's what we're going to start with today. So the synopsis for She-Hulk episode 8, Daredevil. That's it. Done. That's a synopsis. That's all you need to know is that Daredevil was in this episode.
Yep, just Daredevil.
Just
nice
Daredevil.
To see you guys.
That's it.
See you guys
all right.
next week.
Good podcast. It was fun.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night was really good, right?
Yeah, and Mario.
No, Mario.
All right, so I know I'm only feeding this role. So many people were like, "You should be watching a show for just Daredevil," and I wasn't, but man, he's my favorite superhero, and I couldn't help but get excited. I told you guys I would be unbearable when he finally shows up, and we'll see what this escalates to today. But here we go. The episode opens on two thieves in a parking lot with a stolen TV when out of nowhere comes a new hero named Leapfrog to stop them. The scene cuts to the law office of JLK&H, where we quickly realize that Eugene Patilio, aka Leapfrog, is retelling the story to Jen in order to explain how his suit malfunctioned and caught fire so he could sue the manufacturer for damages. Jen is on board and thinks that they have an easy win until she's told that the manufacturer is actually Luke Jacobson, who's the same person who made Jen's super suit and business suits and is currently making her dress for the gala. Jen tries to get out of the case, but Holloway requires her to take the case and suggests that she try to come to a settlement agreement with Jacobson outside of court. Jen goes to do just that, but Luke is offended at the idea that one of his suits would ever be faulty and immediately tears up the dress he was making for Jen for the gala, making it official that this case will in fact go to court. We need more of him, dude. That man is funny.
I'm sure we'll see more of him in the next episode, and especially if he's the suit maker for Daredevil and She-Hulk. He's like the Edna Mode of the Marvel universe right now. So
right, he is. I do wonder if he's only the temporary, so like he's the suit maker for Daredevil when Daredevil's out on the West Coast and
Right.
and he needs the drip, but on the East Coast, maybe he has somebody else. It all depends on whether or not Daredevil and the Netflix show is canon to the MCU in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, there's Melvin Potter, but if there's any crossover from the Netflix show, he would be arrested and in jail probably. So yeah, then maybe Luke is the permanent suit maker right now for Daredevil, and we'll see how that plays out. So back to the synopsis. In court, we see Jen with Eugene, but there is no lawyer there to represent Luke. That is until the one and only Matt Murdock walks through the door. and I loved that his first line in this scene was a joke. I immediately thought, dude, that is going to piss off the toxic fanboys who have been talking about like, oh, Daredevil better not make jokes. And like the first thing out of his mouth is a joke.
I don't know why he made plenty of jokes in the Netflix show and in the Spider-Man movie, or like his only scene in there was a joke. He's like, I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I thought, we'll talk about that. I thought they did it so well, but there's no way that was an accident. They had to be, I'm sure they were very intentional. Like, yeah, let's make his first line a quip. So the one and only Matt Murdock walks in through the doors. Jen immediately looks at camera and asks, who's this a-hole? It's so funny because it's like the dude is clearly blind. And so she is like out here trashing a blind man to the camera, which is so on brand for her, but still funny.
We had a lot of fourth wall breaks in this episode. And
I
loved it.
There were. I would imagine, I didn't get an actual count, but I would imagine this was probably the most fourth wall breaks that we've had out of any of the episodes. During the proceedings, we learned from Matt that the Sokovia Accords have actually been repealed. We'll talk about that in a little bit and what those implications might be. But Matt ends up wiping the floor with Jen and Eugene when he smells jet fuel on Eugene's suit and calls him out for it. Eugene admits to it, to which Luke replies that this deliberately disobeys the instructions he gave for the suit. Matt wins the case and Jen leaves the court furious with Eugene. We then find ourselves at Jen's favorite watering hole, Legal Ease, where she once again encounters Matt Murdock and the two hit it off immediately. Just when it seems like things may get good, Matt gets a call and tells Jen he has to leave to take care of work stuff. At the same time, Jen gets a text from Todd. Remember, Todd is the just super annoying, weird guy that keeps showing up that has to be a part of the intelligentsia, and we'll talk about that. She gets a call from Todd asking her to meet over a legal matter, so she leaves to go do exactly that. As she meets with Todd, he tells her that he bought a vibranium Wakandan spear from an auction, and now Wakanda is trying to take it back, and he would like Jen's help to keep it. Jen quickly realizes, though, that Todd's main goal in this meeting is to try to make a move on her, so she promptly rejects him and leaves to head home. Back at her home, Jen sits down when she gets a call from who else but Eugene, who is freaking out because he says he's being attacked as he was heading back to the lily pad, which is the name of his hideout, and just so on brand for Eugene, so over the top. Jen tells him that she'll be right there and dons her super suit for the first time. Once Jen arrives on the scene, though, we realize that Eugene's attacker is actually Daredevil. He and She-Hulk fight it out as Eugene escapes, and after going back and forth for a few minutes, She-Hulk does a thunderclap to take down Daredevil. She grabs Daredevil to unmask him, only to realize that he's actually Matt Murdock. Matt explains to her that Eugene is actually the bad guy as he's kidnapped Luke Jacobson and taken him to his lily pad. So Jen and Matt head there to rescue Luke. Outside the lily pad, Jen and Matt have a rousing discussion about henchmen versus goons. Henchmen believe in the cause. Goons are in it for the paycheck. And Matt reveals that he can hear heartbeats by telling Jen that there are 25 goons, and he plots out exactly how he's going to take them out and heads in to do his thing while Jen waits on the roof. Dude, like during the scene when he like when he flips that switch and like they're having their kind of comedic conversation about goons and henchmen, and then all of a sudden he just like gets into Daredevil mode and he's like, "There's 25 goons, this many on the top, this many on the bottom," and like he just starts breaking it down. I got the chills because I was like, "Oh, bro, like this is peak Daredevil right here." Like he's just breaking it down and he's getting ready to go in and annihilate these dudes.
Dude, they're fighting together, the destruction and then the like the sneaky ninja like. Oh, dude, what good contrast.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. We're then treated to a phenomenal classic Daredevil hallway fight scene, only to have it interrupted at the end by She-Hulk breaking through the ceiling and smashing the remaining goons. Jen and Matt burst into Leapfrog's main lair and make light work of the rest of his goons and rescue Luke, who puts Jen back in his good graces and agrees to make her dress again. Eugene tries to escape but hurts himself by jumping out the window and gets arrested by the cops. In the aftermath of all the excitement, Jen and Matt share a moment on the rooftop of the lily pad. They clearly have a thing for each other and end up finding themselves back at Jen's place where they hook up. Matt Murdock, you sly dog. The next morning, we're treated to a shot of Daredevil making a barefoot walk of shame in his full suit, which was freaking hilarious. Like, that was just so funny. Jen asks why the episode is still going on, though, and it's clear that something is off. Nikki then shows up to help Jen get ready for the gala that takes place that evening, which is where we also finish our episode. Real quick, before talking about the gala, I don't know. This could just be me. I know. So I don't know if you've seen at all online, but there have definitely been theories swirling around that Nikki is not who she says she is, that she's actually bad. And some people even think she could be like a witch or something. And some people feel that way because she's the only other character in the show so far to break the fourth wall, because there have been multiple scenes where she has made, like, she doesn't break the fourth wall verbally, but there have been multiple shots of her on camera where she will just like be staring off and then like glare at camera, but like glare at the camera in a weird way, not like a funny, goofy way like Jen does, but she breaks it in almost a creepy way. Like she knows it exists, but she doesn't acknowledge it verbally. And there have been like, she's had some necklaces that look like I can't remember, but yeah, like something a witch would wear,
like Agatha Harkness,
dude.
Sort of stuff.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know if I ever fully bought into that, but the camera glances were weird. But I don't know, just something about this scene with her and Jen. She didn't do anything inherently wrong, but something just felt off with her to me. And like right as Jen is talking about like, hey, this episode should be over, she bursts through the door, and
right.
I don't know, man. It didn't sit right with me. I could be completely off base, and she may be the nicest, sweetest person in the world, and I kind of hope she is because her character is so good.
I get what you mean. What felt weird to me was the clear Wolverine reference.
Yes, dude. She had the makeup things. Oh my gosh.
I was like, what are we doing here? Like
second time Wolverine's been referenced.
Yeah. And
I love it. We
got, everything with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman earlier this week.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, just they're playing with our heartstrings at this point. So when we get to the gala, Jen receives her award for Female Lawyer of the Year, but is disappointed to find out that this award is also shared by 3 or 4 other female lawyers, one of which includes Mallory Book, which basically makes this a participation trophy at that point. And you're so ticked at, like, I don't know if this is run by the law firm or who this is run by, but whoever it's run by, like, you're so ticked that you're like, this is such a troll job for this award ceremony or whatever it is. It's such garbage. But as Jen begins to give her thank you speech, she's cut off by a message on the screen behind her from Intelligentsia, who says that they're going to expose She-Hulk for who she really is. And they begin to leak all kinds of personal info and data on the screen, and even stoop so low as to show video of her and Josh. Remember Josh, the traitor scumbag, who we thought was really nice, and then he wasn't. Her and Josh being intimate. This moment understandably sends Jen over the edge, and she rages out and breaks the screen as people run out of the room in fear of her. Jen notices some members of the Intelligentsia in the back of the room and chases him outside and captures one, ready to annihilate him, until she realizes how many cameras are focused on her capturing this moment. She looks at the camera in a worried manner, and the episode ends. I know there's a lot that went on in this episode, but realistically, my mind can only go to Daredevil, which I kind of feel like he was most of the episode. I mean, we got some of the best Jen and She-Hulk moments in this episode too. But Matt slash Daredevil was in almost the entire thing. So I mean, I feel like that's what we
It
talk about.
was the title card should have said She-Hulk attorney at law or Daredevil and She-Hulk attorney at laws
That actually
or
would have been
something like
so funny.
attorneys at law or something like that.
Yeah,
That'd been good because he was in this episode just as much as she was until
he
that
was.
very end that we just talked about. Where, dude,
Yeah.
speaking of the very end, there, she fully like there was a slight moment there where she was like Rage Hulk,
Oh
like
yeah.
there was a little bit of no control there.
You love to see it too, like because
Yeah,
I totally would have been Rage Hulk too, and I thought it was perfect. And I hope we get Rage Hulk or Rage She Hulk in the finale. It's
against
gonna
Intelligentsia or
it's
something
gonna be
like that.
good,
Or I hope Wong comes back.
dude.
Hope we
Imagine,
see him again.
imagine he's popping up in like 18 other projects in the future, so
Yeah.
he'll be there. I did see that the head writer for She Hulk said something today where she said that fans are going to be treated to, what'd you say, like an unbelievable, unforgettable, unmissable finale of She Hulk. And so obviously she could just be saying that to build up hype. I mean, I feel like most people do, but you're hyping it up this much. If it falls really flat, then you're just going to take all kind of crap. I'm pretty excited. I feel like there's going to be some really big, mind blowing twists and turns in the finale because we still don't fully know who is behind Intelligentsia. Most likely, it's the leader. Now, whether or not we get to see the leader, who's the villain in Captain America New World Order coming up and was, in Original Hulk, whether we get to see him, I'd be surprised if we actually saw him in the flesh. I could see a reference to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's got to be, like a second in command, third in command. Second in command is probably MODOK, who's going to be in Quantum Mania. So I doubt we see him either. But I don't know if you think differently. I think it's Todd. Like I think Todd will be. I don't know if he'll transform into some form of Hulk or something, and we get to see Abomination. Like because in the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely see more Abomination. There is definitely another
Yeah.
scene with him as Abomination, not as Emil Blonsky. And so I don't know. There's got to be a villain worthy of fighting a Hulk, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like it can't because Daredevil, for as great as Daredevil is, got worked by Jen
Mm-hmm.
because Hulk is a Hulk. Hulk is one
Yeah.
of the strongest beings in the entire Marvel universe. And so Daredevil held his own for a little bit, but in terms of like actually doing anything to her, he stood no chance because at the end of the day, she's a Hulk. And so whoever the villain is, in order to make it like a pretty memorable fight, assuming there's going to be one, I just feel like someone has to make use of the blood. And she referenced the Red Hulk. I don't know.
For some reason, my gut feeling is I don't think we're done seeing Josh. Maybe something to do with Josh. Maybe she does have to fight. Maybe there's like a She-Hulk Abomination fight again. Maybe he gets like mind controlled somehow or in some way or form. And it's like, Josh or Todd mentions like, oh, the Thinker made this device that I can like control. Like, I know that's
Yeah.
like very like cartoony and far-fetched, but I mean, obviously Marvel's going to make it in a way that it's like, oh, that would make sense.
More realistic. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Todd's buying all these. Todd, he bought a vibranium spear, and we can do a lot of things with vibranium. So, like, what if there's a way for him to control Abomination somehow, or leverage him in order to fight She-Hulk?
Or maybe I don't know. So, I don't know that I believe this, but I know I hear plenty of people talk about this. But maybe Abomination has not been good the entire time. Maybe this has all been like maybe he's a part of Intelligentsia, and it's been a part of his long-term master plan with the leader to get out of prison by portraying this, super nice, peaceful persona, and then keeping that persona up for a while to uphold his reputation. And then when the moment strikes, he, maybe the plan was originally like, okay, we take down the Hulk and take his blood. And then She-Hulk all of a sudden becomes a thing. And he's like, no, I want to request her as my attorney because I need to get in good with her to take her blood so we can use that to create our own army of Hulks. I don't know. I feel like he's reformed, but also at the same time, he has had such a drastic transformation. I could see him going back and actually having it be an act. But also, I don't know. I play devil's advocate with myself because he also has seemed so nice that it would be sad to think that like he was this nice of a guy and we thought he was this genuine dude that was like helping people now, and all of a sudden it's like, nope, he's actually a jerk and still a really bad dude.
Yeah. Here's the thing with that. I think there might be some validity in that theory, because up to this point, the only person that hasn't screwed Jen over is Daredevil and Mallory Book and Blonsky.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like someone's going to screw her over again because that's just the theme of this show. They could be setting up for something bigger. They're
Yeah.
setting up for, the Sokovia Accords are repealed.
Yeah.
So we don't have anything to keep superheroes in check. And
Right.
she's going to get screwed over by a superhero and not have that to fall back on legally. So she has to She-Hulk out of that.
Yep. And worth noting that in the comics, Mallory Book does become an antagonist directly opposing She-Hulk at one point. And I believe part of her mission as an antagonist is to acquire She-Hulk's blood and try to create some sort of new Hulk. And so it would fit right into this storyline if somehow Mallory Book was not who she says she is. But again, I mean, Marvel changes things in the MCU all the time, and that they'll deviate from the comics, and so it could just be one of those things where they don't want to make her into that, and they want to keep her as kind of a rival of sorts, but also like there's that mutual respect that the two definitely seem to have up to this point, anyway.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about mind-blowing twists and turns, yeah, like you said, if we found out that Mallory and Abomination were both somehow against her this entire time, like that would turn the whole show on its head.
Yeah. Personally, I don't think Mallory would be against her, because at the very end there, she was the one trying to be like, hey, yo, calm down. Don't let this
She
affect
was
you.
trying to bring her down. But you know who wasn't?
Nikki.
Right. Nikki
Yep.
wasn't. Nikki wasn't, bro. Like I'm telling you, dude. They're wouldn't her best friend be the one who's like,
hey, yo, calm
all right,
down.
let's.
Well,
although I don't know. To be fair, Nikki seems
Yeah.
petty enough that she'd be like, nah, tear it up.
To be fair, she also was like, hey, can somebody turn this off? Like, unplug it.
That's
I
true. She
remember
did say
part.
that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Although
but
if she, I don't know, man, if she was the one in control of the whole thing, of course she'd say, like, I got to say this to cover my butt, and it sounds like I'm trying to do a good thing, when really I know who's playing the video. They're not going to turn it off.
yeah, just
I don't know,
point
man.
is, she's gonna get screwed over by somebody next episode that's close to her,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna be Daredevil.
Right. Yeah. There is no way at this point. I'm convinced there is no way that there isn't somebody that's been portrayed as good that's going to turn out to be shady. Like someone's got to turn. I feel like.
What if it's Bruce?
Yeah, no shot. That'd be wild. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him come back though.
Yeah,
and help her. Although again, yeah, I guess it just depends. Like it depends on what happens with Abomination. If Abomination is good and actually is for her, then I don't think we'd see Bruce back, because I think Abomination would be the one to fight with her, which a lot of people probably want to see him back in action. If he's bad, I could see Bruce coming back, because then it's Abomination and Jen versus, or then it's Bruce and Jen versus Abomination and whoever else. Unless Abomination is behind the entire thing, in which case maybe it's just Jen versus Blonsky, which would also kind of be dope. I'm excited. I feel like this episode set up for the finale really well.
Yeah.
And I like that little tag on to the end to kind of raise the stakes. And you felt for her in that moment too, because like Intelligentsia just comes off as a bunch of sleazeballs. And so you couldn't blame her. Like, you're already kind of irked at the whole ceremony in and of itself. Like, man, this thing's dumb. Like, they're up here getting embarrassed and being called out for being female. Like, they made a big deal about them being female lawyers. And then on top of that, Intelligentsia pulls that stunt, which kind of has me wondering. I don't know. This whole thing's becoming a conspiracy theory. Like, is GLK and H that ethical? Like, is Holloway somehow involved? I don't think he is. He seemed pretty shook. Like, you saw a shot of him looking at She-Hulk toward the end, and he definitely seemed a little shook that like she had completely lost control. But I don't know, like, who's putting on this stupid gala? Is it GLK and H? If so, they suck. Or is this an entire, like, was the whole thing made up by Intelligentsia and made to look as some kind of big award ceremony, but really it was just their way of knowing that they could get She-Hulk, like, not by herself, but they could get She-Hulk in a place at a specific place in time to kind of expose her to the world. Todd's involved in some way. I feel like the scene with him in this episode where they're meeting to talk about his legal matter with the spear. I feel like that was meant to make us think that he wasn't involved. To me, it was like a Trojan horse. They wanted us to think that he was no longer involved. Like, oh, like he's just an idiot who keeps doing dumb stuff and he buys dumb things and he's hitting on Jen. And so like, we just need to be dismissive of him because he's not actually a real threat. But the fact that he had a vibranium spear and then he was asking about the vibranium needle, and we know that Intelligentsia had, or we assume it was a vibranium needle. We saw a needle, but
Right.
we can assume it was vibranium after hearing the reference prior to that. And it's been clearly established that this dude is loaded. Like to quote Jean-Ralphio, he is flushed with cash. like this dude is rolling in the dough. And so who else would be able to fund all of Intelligentsia's products? That guy.
Speaking of MCU artifacts, you got to pick like 4 or 5. How many? What are you picking?
Let's do this. If you could have one MCU item, like one MCU item to just own, and it's in your possession forever, which item are you going to take? Just one artifact. So I mean, we have all, we have Mjolnir, we have Cap Shield. What else we got?
Iron Man suit.
Does Iron Man suit count? Do we count
The
Iron
whole
Man
thing?
suit? Is it? Yeah.
If
If we're counting the suit, bro, it's gonna be hard for me to turn down a suit. Like,
honestly, I might go a sling ring.
dude, a sling. Oh, I didn't even think about a sling ring, man. Man, that
A
would
sling
be
ring
insane.
would be cool.
Of course, you'd have to learn how to use it, but assuming
Right.
you learn how to use it and you could just create portals.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to go see Jake, but
Yeah, dude. Yeah, there hasn't been any. Yeah, kind of funny. We got that mention of him, and it's been kind of
Left.
cricket since then. Yeah, which I think is intentional. I don't think they meant
Yeah.
that to be the focus, but they wanted to drop that in there. Sling ring is a good choice, dude. Now that's got me reconsidering because Bucky's arm would be a hilarious one. Sam's wings are Sam's wings actually made out of vibranium? I'm assuming they are, especially the newer wings now. Oh yeah, that's right, because the Dora Milaje and Wakanda created his new suit for him, right?
Yeah, but Bucky put in a favor with
That's
them.
right. I completely forgot that that's where his new suit came from. So yeah, dude, the vibranium wings would be sweet. Although I don't know if I trust myself with that. Like Sam was a fighter pilot in the Army or the Marines, whatever he was in, Air Force, and so it makes sense that he's able to control that. I feel like I would crash and kill myself. It just.
I feel like I would too. Like, well, maybe not Indiana. Like, there's not a whole lot to crash into other than the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, the ground's probably taking you out. So
right. But if you've got vibranium wings, you just land on those wings and absorbs all impact there. You'll be all right.
I feel like these are the memes that I'm seeing right now on TikTok and Instagram, where it's like, I'm in a plane and it's crashing, but I remember that I can just jump out of the plane before it hits the ground and I'm fine. And it's like,
or turn on airplane mode on my phone.
I saw that one. Yeah, I'm in a plane, I'm crashing, so I turn on airplane mode and it starts flying again. And it's always to the sound of LeBron, the one clip of LeBron where he's like, "Come on, man, that's too easy.
That's too easy."
Dude, oh my gosh, that's why I feel like it's like, oh, I'm crashing with Sam's vibranium wings. I'll just turn around, land on the wings. I'm good.
Just like anything vibranium you got on you, just land on that. You're good.
For real. You could go at the Infinity Gauntlet, which that's one, like, yes, it would be cool, but I don't want that kind of power. And I don't want other people to know I have that kind of power, because if you have an Infinity Gauntlet, people are coming for you, man. Like, there's no way you're not going to start a war.
Want that to exist in this world. No, not at all.
No, I'm not choosing that one.
Having a sling ring in this world would be like way more cool. Low key. Like, because like it wouldn't be enough to garner attention from anybody outside of your community.
Right.
People in your community just be like, yep, he just teleports in and out. Like, they would get used to it.
Dude, free vacation travel for life, man. Like, you don't got to pay for another flight anywhere for the rest of your life. Yeah, like instant travel. That's always been when people ask what's the superpower you would want. Teleportation is like super high on my list just for that reason. The ability to cut out travel time to anywhere would just be so OP. I'd love it.
Yeah.
I don't, man, dude. Dope. I don't know what my artifact, like Mjolnir would be cool, but you got to be worthy to hold it. So I'm probably not worthy. And so it would just sit there and in my house. And then whenever we move, I can't take it anywhere because I'm not worthy. So it just has to stay in my house.
Right.
Cap shield would be a dope one. I feel like for me, it comes down to web shooters. That would be sick. Although the web shooters would be tough because I would have to have the knowledge to create my own web fluid after like the initial, unless it just comes with an unlimited amount. But the web shooters would be kind of sick. Again, though, I feel like I'd probably end up hurting myself because I'm not Spider-Man and I don't have all kind of like durability. And I'd go to swing from a building, miss, and just splatter like an actual spider. So she said sling ring. I'm not going to say sling ring. I'm going to go with the suit.
Yeah, the Iron Man suit or sling ring, like those are like, I mean, maybe Ironheart's suit too. I don't. We saw a sneak peek of that in the Wakanda Forever trailer or the Black Panther 2 trailer.
I feel like Iron Man's suit is another one where like I'm probably inviting people to come after me on that one, but that's a risk I'm willing to take if it means I get to be Iron Man. I'll figure that part out.
Yeah, or Black Panther suit. That's another one.
Black Panther suit would be so sick. Except it'd be like the opposite of it'd be exactly like Spider-Man No Way Home when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man reveals himself to Electro, and Electro's like, I just thought you was gonna be black. And like if I was in a Black Panther suit and I came out and someone looked at me and be like, I definitely thought you were gonna be black, I guess. Sorry.
Like, no, my bad.
I get it, but it is one of my favorite superheroes, though. So, yeah, Black Panther, that would be a sick one to have. And the whole vibranium thing, yeah. If we're talking suits, that's probably the suit I'm going to go with, actually. That would be so sick.
I think I'd still go with Infinity War Iron Man suit.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like he had the glasses and just like the little button press and the nano. That was such a sick suit up, dude. All right. Let's talk about Daredevil in this episode, bro, because this isn't even an exaggeration. The entire episode, I sat there smiling ear to ear like the entire time. I just caught myself smiling because I was so happy to see Daredevil back on screen, and more than that, I was so happy to see that they did his character justice. Like, I really felt like, I mean, I know he was technically introduced in No Way Home as Matt Murdock, but it was, for a quick 1 minute scene, and this I feel like this was the real introduction, and I thought that they did his character so well, and they could have messed this up in a lot of ways, right? And people were worried that they were going to screw this up, and they could have, but they didn't. I feel like they stuck the landing with him so well.
They really did. Every instance of him in this episode was awesome. We got to see the Matt and Jen face off. Like, that was a really cool Daredevil being acrobatic, and dude, like, we saw that a little, like, sort of in the Netflix series, but not to, like, I don't think to the extent that we saw it there. Like, the acrobatics we saw there was crazy.
It was, and it's super, like for anybody that's not familiar. So I know this sounds like a hot take. It's really not, I promise. But this version of Daredevil, I don't say version like it's different, but like what we saw in She-Hulk is arguably the most comic accurate Daredevil we've seen on screen yet. Because if you read any of the Daredevil comics, like that dude, like the acrobatics that he was doing in the show is so true to the character in the comics, because he's doing stuff like that all the time. And yeah, like you said, you got maybe a little bit of it in the Netflix series, but not the acrobatics to the extent that it happened in the show. And I thought it looked so cool.
It was sweet. Just him like launching over the edge, and then Jen looking over, and he's like
just
hopping.
Like swinging in the
like, what in the world? This dude's blind.
I know. Yeah, she had to be so, especially because like imagine her thought, because up to that point in the show, she had only encountered just absolute goobers of quote unquote superheroes or super people. I mean, she's seen Leapfrog and Mr. Immortal and the whole gang from the last episode. What's that? Man Bull and El Aguilar and all those guys. Porcupine, yeah, and so all these just like weird heroes, Donnie Blaze, and like these D-list heroes. And so she probably saw Daredevil as like, oh, just another loser. And then he ends up actually being really good at fighting. And she's probably thinking like, holy crap, like this guy's the real deal. Oh, and like you said, I loved that we got to see him in court because I wondered if we'd see him in court or not. And I'm so glad that they did show that because those are some of my favorite parts of the Daredevil show, especially in season 2 of the Netflix show. You see a lot of him, Matt Murdock, in court, and he's so good in court. And I know the court scene wasn't super long, but we did get to like, we felt like, my boy still got it. He's still, the second that jet or that suit came out, he smelled it and was like, hey, what kind of fuel did you use on that? And just shut the whole case down within a matter of seconds.
Tough for Jen, to be honest, there.
yeah, dude, because she just had an absolute goober. I thought Leapfrog was funny to an extent. I know you thought he was a little on the annoying side.
No, I was so annoyed by this character. I really wish I really wanted it to be a quote unquote villain with a name like Leapfrog, but he's actually like poses like sort of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't really pose much of a problem at all. He was pretty much just
he hurt himself 3 times.
Yeah, he burned himself. That's true. It was so good. The other thing I loved about just the whole Daredevil She-Hulk thing was the fact that I thought it was really cool that we got to see She-Hulk we got to see both of them utilize their skills and their powers in their fight against each other like to perfection. Like we got to see She-Hulk using all of her abilities with her super strength, and she was able to just split the ground in half, and then she did the thunderclap, which was dope. And we saw the acrobatics from Daredevil and just the martial arts that he has. It was just a really well done fight. I know there's a little CGI in it. I know some people were upset about that, but honestly, that's the way the show's been the entire time, and you can't really expect it to all of a sudden just completely shift.
Right. We got to remember this is a show. It does not have the same budget as a movie.
Right.
Marvel was previously having some problems with their VFX departments and the people they were using.
Yep.
So it's like, let's cut them a little bit of slack on the effects because fight scenes are hard enough to do anyway. And the fact that like these people were probably unfortunately pushed to do this in a certain time frame. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not going to be perfect. So don't blame
Yeah, and especially because this isn't his show, and so it seems unrealistic. Like I've seen so many people, not as many as I thought, but there have still been people I've seen complaining about Daredevil, and the one like the people who complain about it and have just been like, oh, they ruined Daredevil. I'm like, no, like you weren't watching because they clearly didn't, and that just like now you've ruined all your credibility because you've shown that you're just going to hate anything this show does, no matter how good it actually is.
Right.
But I feel like the general consensus of this episode was that it was insane. And
because like we jumped to a few moments later with the hallway fight. That was legit.
Dude, the hallway fight was so good. And again, I understand it's not on par with what the Netflix series was doing because those hallway fights lasted for like 3-4 minutes and just had ridiculous choreography for fighting. And oftentimes the hallway fights were done in one take. And I saw people complaining like, oh, it's nothing compared to Netflix hallway fight. I'm like, yeah, because it's not, because it's a She-Hulk hallway fight. Like this isn't his series. You should be happy that we got one in the first place.
Right.
Which I did not think we'd get a hallway scene. And when it cut to that scene, it cut to that room, the hallway, I was like, dude, no way they actually do one. Like, no way we get one. And when he came walking out, and that theme that they're using, they use it twice in that. The theme that they used for him, not the one that they played from the Netflix show, which I screamed when that actually played, when he told Jen that he's Daredevil and you heard the music behind. I was like, whoo. But yeah, like the new theme that they made for him that you kept hearing a couple times sounded so good. And I hope that sticks and becomes like his fighting theme in his actual Born Again show, because we haven't heard it so far in She-Hulk. And so it makes me believe that it's not anything to do with the She-Hulk show. Like that's what they're actually going to use for him. Like that's like Captain America has his theme, or Thor has his theme. Like this is Daredevil's theme now.
I'm just so excited for Daredevil Born Again to come out. I've heard that it's a soft reboot.
That's what Charlie Cox said. Yeah, but because he said it's not the same character. But I don't know if I trust anything anyone from Marvel says until we get it like in official writing.
I don't trust actors anymore.
No.
They don't know anything. Thanks, Tom Holland,
Yeah,
Mark Ruffalo.
yeah. They don't know anything. And also, like, there's no way Feige has, yeah, not been telling people what to say and what not to say, because part of me wonders if the original Daredevil theme playing in this, like, does that allude to the Netflix show being canon to some degree, or is it just a literal tease, or just a nod to the show and nothing more?
I would say it's the same Daredevil, I would say. So that's why we get the same theme song there when he
Yeah,
introduces himself. But I we do have a brand new suit here as well. It's not the all red one that he's got. I still like your theory that Bullseye might have gotten
tarnish that.
tarnished that or something like that. Um, but still, here's the thing: like the Netflix one to start off, they originally said it was canon, correct?
Yeah,
And then they went back on it.
way back, and they didn't even necessarily go back on it, but yeah, for people who aren't familiar, because I don't feel like this got near enough attention when it happened. I even remember making a TikTok post about it, and it didn't even blow up that much, and I didn't see anybody else making posts about this, which I thought was weird. But months and months and months ago, Marvel on their website posted, because if you go on Marvel's website, you can look up characters, all the characters in Marvel, whether it's in the MCU or just in the comics. But if it's in the MCU, it will give like a timeline of that character's events within the MCU, and just kind of talk about things that they've gone through and like where their character has been and what they've done up to this point in time. And when you looked up Daredevil, for the longest time, it just had the events of his Netflix show. And then all of a sudden it added, after No Way Home came out, it added the events of No Way Home in that. And the way it wrote it, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but the way it was written placed like the events of No Way Home chronologically in a timeline with the events of the actual Daredevil show, and made it sound as though like they were a part of the same timeline in the same universe with the same character. And it was up for like 3 days, and then that section got removed. And so I don't know if that was like an intern got tasked with like updating the character profiles, and they just got a little excited and typed it, and Feige was like, "You're fired, get that crap off the website." Or I don't know what happened, because it's not, I mean, at least to my knowledge, I'm going to look it up right now as we're talking, but at least to my knowledge, that is not on there anymore. Well, I know it definitely wasn't at one point, but to my knowledge, they've never added it back.
Right. And I wonder if it's because they decided to go with a soft reboot of it because there were some like holes that they needed to fix or to like just leave out in general. Because it would make sense if chronologically it lined up with No Way Home because he was his Peter Parker's lawyer,
Right.
and there needed to be a spot for him to be able to like kind of like, oh, I had another client, it's Peter Parker. I bet in his show it'll pick up somewhere around that where we get like we'll see the Peter Parker news blip.
Yeah, that would be
And
pretty
then
cool. Looking at the bio, it does not have anything from the MCU on Daredevil's bio anymore. It just it finishes up with the end of what happens in Daredevil season 3 and reforming Nelson, Murdoch, and Page, and that's where it ends. But previously, after that, it had detailed the events in No Way Home. How sick
yeah,
would it be? I've seen some people talk about this. I feel like this would be a phenomenal beginning to the Daredevil show. How sick would it be if the show starts with Daredevil on a rooftop listening for crime like he often does, and listening to the beat of the city, and all of a sudden he starts hearing heartbeats erasing, like disappearing, and he's
oof,
listening to the snap happening in real time, and
oh,
he gets snapped, and then Daredevil Born Again starts with like him coming back and having to, and again, this would probably be more if they wanted to take some of the Netflix show and make it canon, but like that would be a great explanation for how Fisk ends up getting back into power, because Fisk was never snapped, and so Fisk had the
right.
opportunity to run amok in New York City, build up an army again, and take over. Yeah, dude, I don't know.
Dang, that's a
That would be
good
such
theory,
a
right?
sick opening,
That would be sweet. Like
such a
the first
dramatic
two
opening.
episodes, like deal with that because It's what? It's 16
18,
episodes?
bro.
18?
Eight, dude. Like, I cannot tell you how hype I am for 18 freaking episodes. It's, oh man, it's going to be so stinking good. I will not be okay at that point.
I'm excited for that because I do want to see him, and I feel like Charlie Cox and Tom Holland would have very funny banter as well.
Dude, it is so sad to me that there are so many restrictions on Spider-Man because yeah, they their characters would just be perfect. And they are like in the comics, like that is the duo. Like I mean, they're not a duo necessarily, but they are in each other's comics all the time because they are the
Yeah.
street level guys for New York. Like that's their home. And so they're constantly running into each other. And yeah, it would be so cool. And I don't know, Kevin Feige talking about how Spider-Man and Daredevil are going to be the head of the street level heroes really makes me think that they've worked something out with Sony to where he feels like there will definitely be a decent amount of screen time with Daredevil and Spider-Man. Because
Yeah.
why else would you say it? Don't get me excited like that, Feige.
Just buy out Sony already. Just come on.
Bro, yeah, it's Disney. Like y'all own everything. How have you not like Sony is not what they used to be. How do you not own them yet? The only reason
Right.
Sony is still this popular is because of the freaking PS5. Like their movies suck for the most part.
It's like they're the PS5 and the cameras that they make. That's what's keeping them afloat right now.
Yes.
It sure as heck isn't Venom, even though Venom is very good. It's definitely not Morbius.
No, yeah, like Into the Spider-Verse and the MCU Spider-Man movies are the only things keeping Sony like studios afloat right now, and
Right.
Disney
And
just
then,
needs to.
yeah, they're shooting in the dark right now with this Madam Web movie too.
I'm so nervous about that.
I'm very nervous about that because that could, oh man, I've seen rumors that Tobey Maguire might be in it too, and Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, and then the voice actor for Miles Morales
Yeah.
might be in it as well. And I'm like, no, please don't do that.
It's just it's so tough because Sony keeps trying to do the Spider-Man universe, but it is so hard to buy into their Spider-Man universe when the main character Spider-Man is a part of a bigger universe that everybody cares about, and you guys are trying to build this universe that nobody cares about. Like, why will you just not come to an agreement to merge fully with Disney? That way it's not separate anymore, because I promise people would actually, like, if you let Feige really get involved, which I have heard though, Feige is involved to some degree with Madam Web, so it does give me some hope. But if you let Feige fully get involved with Sony and help integrate their universe with the MCU, I promise those movies would end up being so much better. Like Morbius would not have been the flop that it was. They would have actually done it right. And
they probably would have tied it in with Blade or something like
bro,
that because they could have, they had the opportunity to line everything up with No Way Home.
yeah,
Because like they tried the
so much
slick thing
potential
where they brought Adrian Toomes into
such
Morbius,
a
like,
random bro, such a random post-credit scene. Like y'all just want to throw that in to hype people up, but it made zero sense.
like the only
No
thing that
sense.
people could think of is like a weird Sinister Six.
Which how does this dude have a suit already? Yeah, so many questions about that.
Right.
I do feel like Morbius was not near as bad as what everyone made it out to be. Like
Right.
I thought Morbius was actually a fun movie. Was it a great movie? Heck no. Like it had
Yeah.
so many faults. But I did like I watched it and I was like, okay, like I enjoyed myself. I had some fun watching that. I am a little ticked that they wasted Matt Smith because I'm a huge Matt Smith fan, and I feel like him as a villain could have and should have been so much better in what it was. And I'm like, y'all just wasted one of the better actors out there on just a crappy Sony movie, dude. Get it together. Kind of the same way I feel about Christian Bale and Gore. Like, man, you guys are going to make me forever hate that movie just because of what it could have been. And instead it wasn't. And yeah, let's not get on Thor Love and Thunder again, because we know how many times I've gone off on a tangent about that.
How both of us have, like,
yeah, dude.
The potential was there. It was there. They missed it.
They did. So one last thing I'll say about Daredevil, and then we'll stop talking about Daredevil because it's been the entire show. I really do feel like, I know people were worried about Daredevil and the humor and whether or not they would just kind of take him completely out of character. And I felt like the humor for him was so true to his character and true to the nature of his character that we know from the Netflix show, I don't feel like any of it felt for the only joke where I was just kind of like, take it or leave it was the second one he made when he was like, I know that Eugene is lying, and then he leans over to Luke and he's like, don't ask me how I know. I'm like, yeah, that one he didn't need to say. That kind of felt a little forced, but that's nitpicky because by and large, like everything that he said just felt exactly like something that Matt Murdock and Daredevil from the Netflix show would have said. And a lot of it was sarcastic humor, which is exactly what his humor is in the show. I loved it. I thought they integrated him perfectly. And I'm sure we'll see a darker version of him in his show. And the other thing, too, is that you got to remember there are some people who this is their first ever introduction to Daredevil. They haven't seen Daredevil, the Netflix show, and they don't know anything about the Daredevil character. And especially because of the nature of the She-Hulk show, like I would imagine that She-Hulk, even though there are a lot of toxic fans who have hated on it, I firmly believe that there are a lot of people watching She-Hulk who are very new to the MCU because like this is a style that they love and it has pulled them in. And so I would imagine that those people maybe don't have familiarity with Daredevil and they don't know what his powers and abilities are. And so it wasn't a way for someone who doesn't understand his power set. That would be a nice nod to them that kind of points out to say, yeah. How does he know? And
Right.
clearly there's something that he can do that he's not saying. What could that be? So I hadn't really thought of it from that perspective until we started talking, but it does kind of make sense now.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, like when the MCU first started, like I was like trying to get as many people on board with it. And now I'm like, man, it would literally take you a whole
Weeks.
month to catch up.
It's so
Like,
much
and
harder
that's
now.
if you watched everything like every single
Nonstop.
night. Yeah, nonstop. So it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, like I've been in it since the beginning. Like I've seen every movie that's come out in theaters, and I've waited every Wednesday, Tuesday,
Yep.
Thursday night to go watch the new episodes or of whatever's coming out. So it's like I've been invested since day one, and if you haven't, like, oh man, you've just
Yeah.
got a
You got some
lot to catch
work.
up on.
You got some work. Also, though, I mean, part of me envies that. And again, like we're super nerds, and so we really enjoy it. But I mean, how fun is that for some of those people that do thoroughly enjoy it and they're starting it for the first time? Like I cannot wait. I cannot wait until my son grows up and can start watching that stuff and to like watch him see all these things for the first time and get to experience all of it. And there's so much. And so like it's just gonna go on forever for him. And how cool would that be? Because I can remember like anytime I'm watching a new show and I enjoy it so much, but I know there's an end point to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember watching Daredevil. Like once I was hooked on Daredevil, I love the fact that every season was 13 episodes. So I knew there's a decent amount, but I was also really sad that I knew at some point I was getting to that end. I was like, man, like this will
Yeah.
eventually end and there's going to be no more Daredevil for me to watch. So how cool for people jumping into the MCU that there's not going to be in it. Like there's no end. And even when you get to the end, stuff is still getting made and there's always going to be new content coming out. So
Right. For
how fun.
at least for as long as Kevin Feige's at the
Yeah,
helms
dude.
there, it's gonna be, yeah, I totally agree. Like when I have kids, like at least like me and you, like we will have things
Yeah.
like you can watch this and this and this will make sense.
Yep.
Or like you can watch, I recommend watching it all because that's what I
Yep,
did. But
exactly. And I know people give Feige a hard time, and it's on the internet. It's a popular thing to hate on people and hate on things. But man, whenever he chooses to step away from Marvel, that's going to be a bad day because that
yeah.
dude has literally changed the superhero game forever. And I understand that. So like Iron Man was created without the help of although I don't know how much he had in terms of like how much of a hand he had in the creation of the Iron Man movie. I don't know if he is involved with that at all or if he came in after the fact. I would assume he was somewhat involved because their post-credit scene was there that kind of nodded toward the Avengers. But again, it could have been in a very limited capacity. But I
Right.
think it's one of those things where the people who are hating on him aren't going to truly appreciate him until he's gone. And hopefully Marvel will find somebody when that day comes to take his place that's worthy and already is like so in tune with the vision and has the creative just mindset that he has. Because one thing I've heard about Feige that I don't think a lot of people realize is how much of a nerd he actually is. Like I've heard multiple people talk about the fact that that dude is so stinking knowledgeable about the comics and just everything with all these characters. And obviously there are other people like that, but he's also a creative genius. And so to have that mix of like the knowledge, but you're also so innovative, when that day comes, it's going to be sad.
It's going to be very sad. But at the same time, it's like, I hope when that day comes, it is done. I hope it's wrapped up. Like
I do and I don't, because it's a thing of like, yeah, there probably needs to be an endpoint at some point, but also like, man, how sad is that going to be if the MCU ceased to exist?
Right.
What am I going to look forward to?
Should I like try Star Trek now?
Dude, yeah, dude, yeah. I don't know. See, like the thought of that ending, I hope it doesn't. There's so much content, and the comics provide so much source material that I feel like we could go on forever, and maybe they will. But yeah, all that to say, like the people who are experiencing Daredevil for the first time, I'm so excited for them, because to me, Daredevil played by Charlie Cox is on the Mount Rushmore of superhero castings.
Right up there with Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
and Iron Man, Chris Hemsworth with Thor,
Chris Evans, Captain America. Evans. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, Deadpool. Wolverine, Deadpool. Yep. Like he's up there to me, because he loves that character so stinking much, and he plays it so well. And his show is one of the greatest, not just superhero shows, but one of the better TV shows. And now there are definitely people out there experiencing him for the first time. And I'm so excited, because I know step 2 is them going and watching the Daredevil show now, because they're like, oh man, this was good. I wonder what it show's like. And they're just going to be in for a treat.
Right. Speaking of experiencing somebody new, completely new, Werewolf by Night.
Dude. Oh my gosh, bro. So I watched this yesterday, and I wanted to watch it Friday. Didn't get a chance. I know you watched it Friday, right?
I watched it.
Because Friday's when it came out, I think.
Was it Friday? Whenever the 7th was. Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
So I was working the night shift on the 6th. So
perfect time to watch it too.
Yep. 3 a.m. hit, and I was like doing homework, and I totally blanked on it coming out. And I just hopped on Disney Plus to like just take a break from doing homework for a second. Yeah. And I was like, oh shoot, Werewolf by Night. Oh, that's out. And I instantly just popped it on, and I threw on my noise canceling headphones. I left the front desk that I work at. I was like, whoever, if you guys are checking in at 3 a.m.
just right ring now, that bell, dude.
Yeah, just ring the bell, and I'll be there after this is done. But it is genuinely, it shot up there as, because Werewolf by Night is one of my favorites, along with Moon Knight and Spider-Man.
Really?
Iron Man. Like he's top 10 for me, easy.
Oh, just in terms of like the projects.
Yeah, just like the character in general. Like he is really cool, because he doesn't, there's not a whole, like there's a comic series about him, but there's just not a whole lot that he bounces around to.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything recent with him. Like his stuff was all old. There haven't been like, he's not a character that's continued on in Marvel.
And I've always been Team Werewolf over Team Vampire any day.
Oh, for sure.
So I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like I just thinking about it, I'm like, I'd love to see him and Moon Knight team up for something. I'd love to see him and Blade team up, him and whatever, I mean, he's in the Midnight Suns. So is Elsa, who's in the show. Like this,
Elsa
it
Bloodstone.
Just set up for so much.
Yeah, dude. I was blown away, and I had heard prior people who were watching it saying that they thought it was one of the best projects the MCU ever did. And I remember hearing critics when the premiere happened saying the same thing. And so my hype level was on 1,000,000, and being directed by Michael Giacchino, who is it's his first time ever directing. And this guy, if you guys are listening, this dude, he may sound familiar. It's because he does the score. He's a composer. It's what he's always been, famous composer. And he has composed scores like Jurassic Park. He's helped do that. He has composed the Spider-Man trilogy, like the new Spider-Man Tom Holland trilogy, all those scores. I mean, like the dude has just done some iconic movie scores, and there's a whole bunch more that I know I'm blanking on. I made a whole TikTok video on it a couple months ago. And so it's super cool now that he's done a directing thing, and my gosh, does he have a knack for it, because it was done like production value, directing, camera work, everything was just on point, dude. The
Right.
bold choice to go black and white for pretty much the entire thing. I wondered if it would feel weird when I heard that that was what they were going to do. And after watching, I'm like, I couldn't have imagined it another way. Like that was the perfect way to do that.
To do it. Yeah. And he incorporated like really old timey film like
Dude,
methods
yeah, like the
with,
little like blips on the screen to make it seem like it's
yeah,
an old film.
yeah, that and just like camera angles and how they would hold the camera and like frame each thing. Like they
Yeah,
would jump between like very new stuff and very old stuff. Like them walking through that little maze,
yeah,
it would always show them like you're looking at it if as if you're like laying on the ground and you're like watching them from like the corner
yeah.
of the, and that's very like old
Old
timey like,
school. Yeah, because they had to
yeah,
set it up in a way that got the whole room like in one shot because they didn't have
right.
access to all the different like ways to set up cameras like they do now.
Yeah, or if you see them walking down like an alleyway like in the village, like it was like them like the cameraman like backing up while they're
Yeah,
walking towards the camera, and it's not like a fourth wall break, but it's like they're almost like looking right at you,
yeah,
so it
yeah,
like makes it feel a lot more suspenseful because you're like, I don't know what's behind me,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's,
yeah.
though it was just made so well. I have a buddy who does videography. I was like, dude, you need to watch this and let me know what you think. And so I'm still waiting to hear back from him. I'm sure he'll like the videography. He's not the biggest Marvel fan, but I'm sure he'll like the videography. Then maybe this will
Dude.
get him on board.
Well, and the one thing that I said about this, and because Carly was asking me about it, my wife, she was asking me about the show because I said we should watch it. And I ended up watching it without her because she's not huge into like werewolves and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
after I watched it, I told her that, well, because she saw the trailer too. And the trailer
Right.
was, I love the trailer. The trailer was so unique and it got me excited. But for her, she saw the trailer and she's like, this looks really weird because they did make it like an old timey monster movie trailer. And after I saw the show, I was like, okay, first of all, like don't base it on a trailer because that's not actually what the
Mm-hmm.
show ended up being like. But I did tell her, I said, I feel like this is a project where people who don't like Marvel that much could still watch it and thoroughly enjoy themselves because it was pretty much removed completely from anything else in the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like a nice, suspenseful, like horror film. And it wasn't really that scary. It had a couple of jump scares, but it was very suspenseful a lot of the time. And the acting was great. Like, yeah, you talked about the camera work was so well done. Uh, the characters were phenomenal. Jack Russell was, he did so well. Like his character was portrayed so perfectly in that struggle between man and monster, and he doesn't want to be the monster. You know, it's a lot like the Hulk struggle in a way.
Right.
And then Elsa Bloodstone was just so hardcore. I cannot wait to see more of her in the MCU because her character was amazing. And then of course
Same
she got the
here.
iconic Ted,
Ted
aka
Man
Man
Thing.
Thing, which
So
his name in the
sweet.
comics is actually Ted. Theodore Salas is what his name is. I actually did a deep dive because I'm going to make a video on him. And he was good friends with Kurt Connors in the comics, who is
Oh,
Lizard. And he ends up creating this serum because he's a biochemist. So it creates a serum that's supposed to be given to soldiers to provide immunity for chemical warfare.
right.
And they end up finding out that a side effect of the serum is it turns people into monsters. So he like scraps that, which is like how every serum story is for superhero stuff. So he scraps that. Well, then he starts creating another serum that's supposed to replicate the super soldier serum, which is also how so many superhero and supervillain stories in the MC or in Marvel is. And he has Kurt Connors help him out, and a terrorist group ends up finding out about his serum, tries to come get it. He has one sample of the serum and he takes it with him as he's running away from them. He injects himself with it so they can't get it, crashes his car into a swamp because he lived in the Everglades. He tried to do his stuff real remotely. And so he went to the Everglades where there's no one else and crashes into a swamp. And the swamp had like some mystical power. And that power combined with Connor's serum, combined with his own serum, turned him into Man Thing, who is basically composed of like swamp matter, like into a physical form, and gave him super strength and gave like he secretes like a toxin from his hands, which like burns people immediately, which is what you saw in the show when he grabbed
Dude,
people and they would like just burn up.
it totally looked like it like It didn't look like a toxin thing. It looked like magic.
It kind of, yeah, it kind of did. And I almost wonder, well, so the other part then, I thought this was super dope when I was reading up on it. I didn't realize this, but the toxin would only affect people when they were fearful, when they were afraid. So if they were afraid, it affected them and like would burn them up. And I thought that was so stinking cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's some of it. Um, yeah, dude. And so the crazy thing is about Man Thing is that the swamp he ended up crashing at and ended up kind of living at was what was called the Nexus of all realities. And it's basically the door to all other universes in the Marvel universe. Basically, he kind of became what the Watcher is in the MCU, and he kind of was the guardian of the Nexus of all realities. And so Man Thing in the comics was able to go back and forth between universes all the time and was capable of multiversal travel and just teleportation. And so I think, like, again, it makes perfect sense that he shows up in the multiverse saga, because I think he'll in some way fit into that multiversal role. And I'm sure this is not the last we've seen of Man Thing. And apparently another power of his is that since he is made up of like swamp matter, vegetation, stuff like that, that he can condense his body to basically fit into any space. And so like he can be the big Man Thing, but if he needs to like sneak in somewhere, he can condense down into just like a sludge essentially, and like, you know, slide under a door frame and stuff like that, which, yeah, I mean, a lot of cool things that they could do with that. Werewolf by, like, I cannot wait to watch. Like, I'm basically going to force Carly to watch it. Listen, you need to watch this, one, because I need to watch it again, but two, I do actually think she'd really enjoy it.
You know what? Introducing Marvel into the MCU, or sorry, monsters into the MCU. This is awesome because that's setting up Blade once again.
Yeah, we know Blade's a monster movie.
I feel like we're getting a big setup for Midnight Suns. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of teams coming up. Thunderbolts, Midnight Suns, New Avengers, Young Avengers, whatever. There obviously there's going to be Avengers,
West Coast Avengers.
Yeah, for all we know. There could be like the A team, the all female team. Dude, it just could be. It just seems like a lot of teams, and then we've got Kang, and like the direction it's heading right now is so weird.
It's going to be massive. The scale of it's going to be insane because, like you said, I think we're going to see that. I think it's going to be a whole bunch. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, like what Secret Wars could potentially be. Like, how dope would it be if it's a bunch of different versions of Kang and fighting different teams in different places? And then maybe like toward the end of the movie, somehow like they all come together and they fight like the main Kang and take him down together. But it somehow bursts open the multiverse, and in comes Doom, and in comes, it becomes Secret Wars.
The potential for it, like having like it won't. I don't think it's gonna be like a big, like there's gonna be a big movie like Avengers, the two new Avengers, King Dynasty and Secret Wars are gonna be big. Even the toxic people are gonna go see it. Don't even deny
it. Secret War, both of those have the potential to be bigger than Infinity War and Endgame in terms of scale.
Right.
And in terms of the feeling of Infinity War and Endgame, I don't know if we'll ever match that, just because that was the first time we'd ever seen anything like those. And so it's hard to recreate that first time feeling. But in terms of just the straight up scale of it, there's no way
it's gonna be sweet.
It's not gonna be bigger. Yeah, and you were talking about like Midnight Suns. I mean, we knew it going in, like we knew these characters are going to be here, but like now that we've seen it, the MCU
Ghost Rider,
the MC, right? Like that's real. Like he's the missing piece as far as Midnight Suns are concerned. He's really the only piece, the major piece that we're missing from the Midnight Suns in the MCU. I mean, obviously there have been a lot of iterations of the Midnight Suns, but like some of the main people, you're talking Doctor Strange, we have him. We have Blade, we have Elsa Bloodstone, and Man Thing was in it at a point. So was Werewolf by Night. Moon Knight is one of the big ones. And just like quick side note, Moon Knight is officially back, people. We got confirmation today.
Back.
New York Comic Con is going on right now, and Oscar Isaac was on a panel, and he was asked about season 2 of Moon Knight, and he said, "We have not seen the last of the system that is Moon Knight." And all I know is there's no way you're sending Oscar Isaac to Comic-Con and not telling him to divulge that information. Like Oscar Isaac isn't just going to go there and like just start spouting off randomly without Kevin Feige's approval. Like Feige 100% told him like, yeah, if someone asks you, don't say much, but just let them know like, yep, Moon Knight's coming back.
Moon Knight's coming back.
I'm
Hopefully Scarlet Scarab
hyped.
too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. And obviously there's been speculation for a long time. I mean, there have been plenty of things that have alluded to Moon Knight returning, but by and large, we've never had official confirmation. So this is the most we've gotten in terms of official, like, okay, he's coming back. We don't know when, we don't know where, but we know Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight is not done. And so you got all the pieces for the Midnight Suns. Now we just need a casting for Ghost Rider. So can it please happen?
Keanu Reeves, maybe.
Bro, I saw that. Keanu Reeves said he wants to play Ghost Rider. Could you imagine?
That'd be the best play for Marvel.
Honestly, it'd be insane, dude.
He would sign on for a while.
That's like, he knows what he's saying with that too, because you're absolutely right. If you have to know, if you're getting involved with Marvel, you're not just doing like one thing, especially if it's a character that big. So he knows what he's asking for. If you have Keanu Reeves at your door, you open the freaking door, Marvel. Like, come on.
It's like you guys brought back Hugh Jackman somehow,
bro. Like, yeah, because we didn't have a podcast last week and I didn't get a chance to record it because it was crazy. Bro. How wild is that, dude? Like, Hugh Jackman is back as Wolverine in Deadpool 3. I never thought I'd say those words.
Yeah. I'm just trying to, like, every time I hear something like that, like, I'm like, Deadpool 3 is coming out. I'm like, and it's going to be in the MCU. So it's like, how is this going to relate? And then the fact that they bring in Hugh Jackman as Wolverine once again, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how is this even going to relate?
I know. I don't know how they're going to make it work. And frankly, I don't even care.
Me either. The only thing is I loved Logan.
Yeah.
I love the ending. I trust Kevin Feige that he's not going to ruin it, but I know the toxicity that's going to come out of this with the toxic fans who are like, shouldn't bring back Hugh Jackman, blah, blah, blah. You're like, just shut up. Like we have the opportunity to have Hugh Jackman, Robert Downey Jr., Tobey Maguire, like all the OGs to pop in for
it's Secret Wars or something. Yeah. Can you imagine?
We have the opportunity here. Like, just shut up. Just shut your mouth for a second.
It's
you're like the kid who like tells the teacher we got homework right now.
Like, and they did say, and they did say in their, because they made a second video. I don't know if you saw that. They made two videos. They made the announcement video, which was hilarious. And then they made a second video a day later where they talked about how they're like, oh yeah, like you're probably wondering how this is going to happen. And Ryan Reynolds even said like, okay, so you have Logan and like, we're not touching that. Like, we're not going to affect how that ended, which I thought was one, like super meta, because everyone was asking that question and he anticipated that already and had a video already made for it. I'm with you. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I also don't care. I mean, I'll care if they screw it up, but they're not going to screw it up. Like, it's the Daredevil thing for me. There's no way you're bringing this guy in and you're going to fumble the bag. Right. They know what, like, they know how precious the cargo they're handling is, and there's no way that they drop it. They have to know that you need to stick this. And I really feel like they will. I mean, I feel like, I know the MCU has taken a lot of heat lately, and I don't think most of it's justified. Maybe the CGI stuff a little bit, but like, if anything, they have shown us that they know what we as fans want and they will deliver. Like to me, getting a hallway scene from Daredevil and She-Hulk, we didn't have to have that, but getting that to me was Marvel's way of saying like, hey, Daredevil fans, we see you, we know your concerns, but we want to let you know this dude is in good hands. Like, we promise you, we are going to give you the Daredevil that you've been wanting. And I feel like it's going to be the same with Hugh and Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool 3 and everybody else.
It is rated R, right? I saw that. Yeah,
it is. Yep. Which also made it gets me excited for things like Daredevil, because I feel like I really hope Daredevil's TVMA. If it's not, I know they can still do it well. Obviously, that was proven with She-Hulk, and so it could be done well. But MCU is heading into a very exciting place.
Yeah.
And anybody 100%. Who says otherwise hasn't been paying attention.
if you say otherwise, it's just because you're mad you didn't stick around from the very beginning when all of us we stuck out. We
Right.
stuck it out.
We've been here. We've been
We've
here.
been
Now we're getting
here.
rewarded for it. Real quick, one thing I forgot to mention, we got about 10 minutes left here. So with She-Hulk, one theory that I have, so we got just kind of an in passing mention from Matt Murdock in the court scene where he talked
Mm,
about the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. And we were told before the show, the head writer said that Sokovia Accords, like we were going to find out what happened to those. And we found out that they've been repealed, which makes sense because we're seeing superheroes everywhere and super people everywhere. And I know one of the gripes that people have had, and I haven't had this, I haven't felt this way, but one of the gripes I've seen people have for She-Hulk is that it's not contributing anything to the MCU. It's not advancing the MCU. And I don't believe that to be true at all. I think when it's all said and done, and I think especially as we look forward into the future, I think it's going to have pretty big implications. A lot like Age of Ultron did. I remember people like Age of Ultron, was underrated as a Avengers
right.
movie. A lot of people didn't like it, but when you look back at it, it actually had massive implications for the entire MCU. And I think She-Hulk will be somewhat similar. And I think one of the ways it could have a big implication is that the show has established there are tons of super people just coming out the woodwork. Like they're everywhere, just running amok. And there's no Sokovia Accords to regulate them anymore, to register them. And it's not a problem right now, but I could see at some point something happens and the government
Yeah.
decides that there's a need for the Superhero Registration Act. And so the question is She-Hulk laying the framework for a Civil War II? Because there's precedent for that. There's a Civil War II in the comics. It's not a great comic series. A lot of people don't like it. And we know that Feige takes liberties with stuff. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they ever did that he would just do his own thing. But I feel like it could, like, am I crazy here? I feel like it could be laying the framework for a second Civil War.
No, I totally agree because there are still going to be still going to be people out there that agree with Tony Stark
Yep.
and people who signed the accords, even though Tony didn't necessarily like agree with them, but there are going to be people who are like, yeah, things need to be put in check. I mean, we're going to have a whole government or maybe government funded team and Thunderbolts.
Yep.
So here's the thing, like, and then mutants are coming to the MCU as well.
Yep.
So it's like this could be setting the groundwork for,
and mutants are very opposed to the government, like historically in the comics and shows, like they are at odds all the time.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised if we'd see like a big, like we'd see a more relaxed version of the Sokovia Accords that both superheroes and mutants must follow, and mutants are like, that's not fair, why do I have to follow this? Because I was just born into it, I didn't ask for this, and then they fight back, and maybe that's the Civil War, maybe that's the Civil War that we see. But who knows, because once again, it's the Kang dynasty right now. It's Secret Wars.
So where's that going to get worked in?
So like, is this stuff gonna just kind of blow up in their face? Like, I just feel like they've got a whole lot out there on the field, and I have no idea how it could all culminate.
It's gonna be epic. And we're already seeing some government opposition because you have the what is it, the Department of
Damage Control.
Damage Control, Damage Control, who is like adamantly against superheroes right now. But now we know that there's no regulation for it, so they're just kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah, and we have Sword, like that. Yep. That is still who and made another Vision.
Completely forgot about them, right? Like we haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, and that Vision is out there somewhere,
just running around. Like we don't know where this dude's at.
I mean, I don't know how we haven't seen him. He's very bright. He's but
part of me wonders if we haven't seen him because during this whole time frame, he's supposed to be kind of relearning who he is, and when we see him again, he'll kind of be like pretty close to what the actual Vision was.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Evil.
Dude, that'd actually be kind of wild if he really did like the Ultron thing. Like Ultron spent 5 minutes on the internet and was like, "Yeah, mankind needs to go." Like this, I've seen enough. I can't even blame the guy. Like, spend 5 minutes in the comment section. Like, yeah, we don't deserve to be here. It's rough,
Right. Yeah. Oh,
dude.
well, you just kind of sparked a thing in my head right there. That could be. I mean, he is out there just doing nothing or collecting information and watching things go down.
Yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. I don't know, man. It's yeah, a lot of yeah, a lot of stones that have been unturned still, which yeah, which we've completely forgotten about. So it's gonna be exciting to see how this all ties in.
Yeah.
But
One of these days I gotta take everything that hasn't been like mentioned, like was like thrown out there and then
yeah,
hasn't been touched, and just I bet there's something there that we're missing that we're like
oh,
that
I'm
would
sure.
pull it all together for us, but what that would be,
Or
I have
just
no
random
idea.
references in movies to stuff that is actually going to be really important, like how the intelligentsia was literally mentioned in, not verbally, but like mentioned in Age of Ultron, because you see a shot of Ulysses Claw being a part of the intelligentsia. And at the time, like no one even thought anything of it, only to find out the intelligentsia has, been here. And
Right.
yeah, it's wild. But that's, I mean, that's pretty much everything. The only other thing that we had to talk about, we got like 5 minutes left, was we got a Super Mario trailer this
Yeah.
past week, dude.
I'm
And
excited for it. I
it
honestly
looks good.
I'm not one that's opposed to Chris Pratt voicing it. I totally, me and you were talking earlier, I totally agree. Like maybe they should have hired an authentic Italian or even just the voice actor who's still alive for him.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I'm just a big Chris Pratt fan. So
I am too. I like pretty much everything he does. And I'm a wait. Yeah. You mentioned it off camera, but I'm gonna wait to reserve judgment until after I've seen it, because we got a very small snippet of his
right.
voice, and people are already making snap judgments about it. And you know, I don't know. I'm a firm believer of giving everything a shot and seeing how things play out. And even if his voice doesn't work out, it still looks like it's going to be a really good movie. Jack Black as Bowser, phenomenal. I was, that was one too that I was unsure. I was like, Jack Black playing the villain. I don't see how that's going to work out. And the way he did his voice in the trailer, it just sounded so stinking good, and he looks so cool. And I really cannot wait to.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, are
And
we building toward a Smash Brothers universe? We have Detective Pikachu. We
oh, that'd
have
be really
we
cool.
have Sonic. I guess Sonic is a part of Smash Bros, but it could be someday.
No,
Um,
he is.
oh, that's right, he is. Gosh, yeah, dude. Shows you how long it's been since I played Smash Bros. Yeah, so
Dude,
we
the
have
only reason
Sonic,
why
we
I
have
know that
Mario.
is yeah. Sonic,
Same.
Mario, Pikachu. Like, only reason
It's
why I knew
there.
Sonic was part of that is because he's one of my go-tos.
Sonic is dope. I love Sonic, and the movies honestly were so good and so entertaining.
People who hated on him, like I get bullying them into making Sonic look more like
Yeah, yeah,
Sonic.
yeah. Oh yeah, ugly Sonic needed to be changed. That
Yeah,
much I can
but
agree with.
people hating on those movies, I'm like, I mean, it like clearly it wasn't made for uh like
like like they're not
a
trying to
bunch of
win an Oscar. Like
yeah,
it's not a cinematic masterpiece, but it is they are very fun movies.
yeah, and
So
yeah, it was good. I liked them, and
so
I'm
good.
ready for the Mario movie as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But that's it, man. That's the episode. We said it was packed full of stuff, and we weren't lying, man. We covered a lot in this episode, but it was a lot of good. Like
A,
everything was good stuff.
yes, a lot, enough for you guys to send us a dang email,
Yes,
please.
please send us an email. One email, one question, one comment. I don't even care if it's one word. We'll read it. Just send a dang email, people. We love you for listening, though. Even if you don't send an email, we still like you guys. So, as always, thank y'all so much for listening, for being a part of our community. That's why we do it. We just want to build up a positive nerd culture community and talk about shared interests and be passionate and nerd out over this stuff. And that's what we're doing. And so we'd love for you to send an email and do it too. That's the episode. You guys rock. Thank y'all so much. And we will catch you guys next time. Peace out, nerds.